Sorry.
Good morning, everyone. We are so happy that you have joined us again for our Speak with a Diplomat, the April edition for this year. And we're so happy that everyone is seated. And I can assure you, we're going to have a great session today. Today, we have in our midst one of our officers who will be our guest on this program. Autumn, I can't see you. Can you just say a word so that I can see you? Okay.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be here and speak with you all today and answer any questions that you might have.
Great. So that's our guest for today. Let me remind you, Speak with a Diplomat is a non-policy program of the U.S. mission in Nigeria to bring to the fore our American officers to interact with the public. So you are free to ask questions, but if your questions are off the limit, we will not attend to them. So let me go right ahead and introduce our speaker for today. Autumn is a public diplomacy officer and PhD fellow. She hails from the... Can somebody just... Okay, I was getting distracted. So Autumn is a public diplomacy officer and pre-crane fellow. She hails from the concrete jungle of New York, where she received an undergraduate degree in international studies from Manhattan College and a master's in international affairs from the New School. She served as an intern in the U.S. Embassy in Bangkok and in Washington on the Brazil desk. Before joining the Foreign Service, she was awarded the Gilman Scholarship to study marine biology and teach English in Panama. She also worked in international education. She speaks French and Spanish. Please, let's put our hands together for our guest today. Warm welcome, everybody. Let's put our hands together. So, Autumn, thank you very much for coming. Our first question is, we'd like you to share your journey with us, your personal journey and career path that led you to become a diplomat.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, can everyone hear me all right? Okay, perfect. So okay. Maybe if you turn off the audio there.
It's completely off.
Okay. All right, some technical challenges there. So my personal journey to becoming a
diplomat. Can you shut that one down? Shut that one down. Please just give us 1 minute. Okay, let's try it again.
Okay, we're okay now. All right, sorry about that, everyone. Okay, so my personal journey to becoming a diplomat was actually a bit unconventional. I didn't originally set out, as most of us don't, with this career in mind. I actually started out as a film student, ironically. So this was completely left field for me. I originally am from New York, as mentioned earlier, And I actually went to film school in Chicago, which is in the Midwest of the United States, if you're not familiar with US geography. And I studied film for a few years, and I studied product design, specifically production design. I had a passion for the arts, and I wanted to get a message out to people regardless of their background. But long story short, I found that it wasn't the right career path for me. I didn't really see a future for myself in film. But I did have a passion for travel and for different cultures. I always seemed to make friends from different backgrounds. And the United States, as you always hear, is a huge melting pot. So I had many friends from different parts of the world, many of whom had actually immigrated to the United States. And that kind of provoked a curiosity in me for international affairs, for life in different countries, and also for helping individuals who came to the United States from abroad. So I actually ended up completely changing universities and majors halfway through my bachelor degree, which is not the path that most would recommend to you, I think, after you've put in time and effort into your studies at school. But I think it also speaks to the importance and value of pursuing what speaks and resonates with you, and that you can always start over again. There is no one path to diplomacy or to whatever career you pursue. So as mentioned in my bio, I studied international studies at Manhattan College for my bachelor's, so I completely changed universities. This was a bit intimidating. I wasn't sure if I was making the right choice or what would wait for me. I just knew I had this passion for different cultures and an interest in governance across the world. And I enjoyed public service, giving back to my community, and I wanted to give back to communities overseas. So a huge turning point for me. I remember specifically being in my first class of international studies, having transferred schools and starting over from scratch. Was my very first professor brought up the foreign service to me during our very first class. And I thought, wow, that sounds interesting. I've never heard of that before. I knew about diplomats vaguely in the back of my mind, but it wasn't really, it didn't seem like a potential option for a career. I thought only people who are older than me with much more experience can be a diplomat, which, by the way, is not true. There's a variety of experiences, and there's a lot of value from youthful people in diplomacy and in governance, which is usually a majority of people with more experience who might be older. You don't see as many young diplomats like myself. So it's actually interesting how I was able to gain a foothold into this career. So that was my first introduction to the Foreign Service. I actually heard about it at school in a class. And I am part of a specific fellowship that's run by the US Department of State. It's called the Pickering Fellowship, and it's specifically dedicated to promoting diversity in the Foreign Service. As I mentioned, historically, not just in the United States, but worldwide, you usually see a specific type of diplomat, which is usually older and from a very specific narrow demographic. So the United States is committed to diversifying the Foreign Service so that diplomats, American diplomats, reflect diplomats are people in the United States. That is, we're a melting pot of cultures. So the United States is committing to having diplomats like myself and diplomats from different religions, races, identities, and different orientations, all representing the United States abroad. So I was very lucky to be selected for the Pickering Fellowship. It's actually a type of competitive application to gain a foothold in the Foreign Service. And it's aimed at people like myself who were either students or who had recently finished school. So typically, fellows like myself, you see, could be people of color, people of a different orientation, and oftentimes younger, but not always, because we usually come from school, but again, not always. So that was my entryway into the Foreign Service. I went to DC. I participated in a very rigorous exam process against extremely qualified applicants from all over the United States. I've made excellent friends and colleagues that will last me a lifetime just from that network. And that was a specific way that the U.S. Department of State, through one of their fellowship programs, was able to help me gain entry into the Foreign Service, which is how I'm actually here today.
All right. That's a very, 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 very interesting story. Thank you, Autumn. Many people are here today, and one of the selling points of this program is that you have some experience with scholarship, and quite a number of young people have some thoughts about scholarship. And while you were talking about your own experience, you mentioned it seems there's a rigorous kind of process to get this scholarship. Is this something that is so easy, something that is, just, how do I put it? Something that you can just pick over the shelf. Can you just tell us what would you advise someone who is looking out for scholarship opportunities? What are the kind of thing they should look out for in their preparation? And then I want you to explain better, what is this rigorous, it could be rigorous, kind of, process. What does it really mean?
So that's a great question. So for me personally, scholarships have been a huge part of my life. I don't come from a conventional family, and finances were difficult for me growing up, as they are for many people, which can be a barrier for certain opportunities. So scholarships were like a door that opened me to certain opportunities, and I certainly couldn't pluck them off the shelf, unfortunately. I was fortunate enough to have a network of teachers as early as high school who were able to point me in the right direction for scholarships. So my first piece of advice would be to reach out, if you're in school, to your faculty, to people who know about scholarships, and ask them, where can I find these opportunities? Because all of the scholarships that I found, someone had told me about a mentor or a faculty member, a teacher who had knowledge about these things that I didn't exactly know about. And oftentimes, if you have a really great advisor who is knowledgeable of scholarships, they can also help you through the process. For me personally, another scholarship that I used was the Gilman Scholarship. It's also run by the U.S. Department of State, and it's specifically for college students in the U.S. who want to go abroad. And I know I'm speaking about American scholarships, but scholarships, of course, are offered all over the world. So I think this is a process that you can apply to yourselves if you have an interest, and maybe you think either you can't afford an opportunity to go abroad or to get a certain internship or a job or a school. There's always a scholarship, a resource that can help you gain entry. And it's very crucial that you create a network of people to help you do that. So the first thing to do is to let a teacher or a faculty member, or even if you have a career development center resource, a lot of schools have those, to let them know, hey, I'm interested in opportunities to either go abroad or for an internship or for some kind of development. How can I access these opportunities? Are there scholarships available to me? And you'd be surprised by how many people already have knowledge of scholarships or financial aid opportunities and resources, and they can help connect you to these opportunities you might not know about. Also, something as simple as the internet, Google, all of us can go on our phones these days, or if you have access to the internet, and just look up scholarship opportunities for something you're interested in. What's great about how globalized our world is today is that you can often find these on your own. So I personally am very self-motivated. So the first step would be connecting for me with my career center. When I was at school, I had an excellent mentor. His name was Brother Dan. I actually went to a Catholic Lasallian college. So my mentor was a Catholic priest, as it happened to be so. And he was also the head of our Career Development Center, and he was an excellent resource. He told me not only about the Gilman Scholarship, but also about Pickering, and I will always be grateful to him for that because it completely changed my life. But the first step was finding out about these scholarships. And the next step, of course, was the most difficult part, which was applying. So every scholarship often has dozens, if not hundreds or thousands of applicants. So it's very much a competition. And you need to demonstrate that you are not only deserving, but qualified for the scholarship. Why should someone choose you for this award over others? So the best advice I could give to do that is to study very hard. Many scholarships are merit-based. That means that they're distributed based on your grades and how well you do in school. You don't need to be a straight A 4.0 GPA student, or I don't know what the grade system is in Nigeria. I apologize. But you do need to stand out in terms of merit in order to qualify for certain scholarships. But every scholarship has different rules. So if you do your research, you can see what the requirements are for scholarships. Make sure you're meeting them, if not going above and beyond. Extracurriculars are extremely important. A lot of people might have excellent grades, but what makes you stand apart from others? So seek extracurricular opportunities in your community, whether it be a job or maybe volunteer work or working for an NGO or an internship, whatever can help you stand out in the process. For me personally, I remember during college, I always either volunteered at public service centers in the neighborhood. I would find them, I'm from New York, so I would volunteer at an aftercare center for children, but it could be anything. I always pursued internships. You have to build up your resume and also your transcript, as in make sure you're dedicating yourself to your schoolwork and find opportunities that will help you stand out when you apply to even colleges or scholarships or both. Really think about what motivates you and perhaps how you can get back to your community, especially if you're considering a career in international affairs. It's a job in the public service. So typically, international affairs seeks people who enjoy giving back to their communities or improving the livelihoods of those around them. And a great way to do that right at the beginning without any experience is just to simply volunteer in your own community to help improve the lives of those around you. And you can do that by going to church and volunteering or finding an NGO or any organization that's looking for support. So when it
Wow.
comes to scholarships, I think the final takeaway would be to truly prepare yourself, make sure you do your research on those scholarships, and also bottom line, apply to as many as possible. If you don't get one, apply to another. Or my philosophy was always to apply to as many scholarships as I could, and whichever ones accepted me, then I could go in that direction. So if you apply to 10 and you only get one, at least you've gotten one. But don't give up if you haven't been selected for an opportunity, whether it's a school, a college, an internship, a job, or a scholarship. Always keep applying, improve yourself, take feedback if your application is rejected, and reassess to make a stronger application for the next time.
Wow, this is so instructive. I hope you are taking note of what has been said. One of the takeaways which I really, really want you to note, say you should build your resume. Make sure before you apply, your resume is well built. And one of the areas she mentioned is the issue of internship. And that's not common in Nigeria. People don't usually volunteer. She said you can approach your church or religious organization and just volunteer. In other words, put your time to improve the lots of people around you. And that leads me to the next question. The issue of internship. What was your experience like? And what should anyone going for an intern or internship do in order to get the best out of that experience? You know, in our system here, there are some courses that you have mandatory time to go for internship. And from my experience, people don't take it serious. People don't, it's just like, it's a time for them to just, just loaf about and play around. So what would your advice be? What was your experience when you're going through interview? And what is the gain of having a very robust interview?
So that's a great question in regards to internships. I've had a variety of internships in the past. I've interned for art galleries. I've interned to teach English abroad to Spanish speakers in Panama. I've also interned for the U.S. Department of State at the embassy in Thailand, which was an incredible experience. I've interned in Washington, D.C. on the Western Hemisphere Affairs Desk. So in all of my different experiences, I always applied myself fully to my work experience. It's really important even if perhaps it's not your full interest to apply yourself fully to your internships, because it's a learning experience for you. You're either learning that you enjoy where you're interning in this type of work, or perhaps you're learning that you don't like it. I entered for an art gallery, but clearly I don't work for an art gallery now. I decided that that wasn't for me, and I chose to pursue diplomacy. But always apply yourself fully to your professional opportunities, not only for learning for yourself, but also consider that in the future, you might ask the person you interned for a reference for a job, or they might be able to connect you to someone who can help you find an opportunity in the future, whether it be a scholarship or someone who can help get your foot in the door in your career. When you intern at organizations, those are networks you're forming. You're meeting colleagues, you're making an impression on people that could have an impact on your future. If you leave a poor impression, then you might not get a reference or recommendation. But if you make an excellent impression on those you have worked with, trust me, it will have ripple effects in your future that will help improve your opportunities and your likelihood to continue to improve and build upon those relationships and find new opportunities as you go forward. Another really important thing about internships is that while you're learning, if that is the career for you, you're building new skills that you can use when you're applying for jobs in the future or applying for schools. A lot of times in interviews that I had for different careers, I leaned back on my internship experience, especially if you're young and just starting out. Maybe you haven't had 5 different jobs that you can speak to about experience during an interview to prove why you're qualified for this job that you're applying for this scholarship or school. But if you've had an internship, it's imbued you with life skills and professional skills that you can speak to and use in whatever opportunity you're now pursuing. A good example would be something as simple as time management. So in every single work opportunity that you have, it's essential to be able to manage your time to be efficient at work. That's a great skill that you can learn and build upon at an internship. It's something very small and simple, but even that is something learned at an internship that can carry you forward. Most of my internships, I believe, helped me win scholarships. I don't think I would be where I am today without my internships, and I certainly wouldn't be where I am if I had applied myself to them half-heartedly. I always have treated my internships like work, because the stakes are high for an internship, I would consider. Most of the time, internships are a way of getting your foot in the door in the career that you're seeking to go in. So for example, when I interned at the US Embassy in Thailand, which was an incredible experience, I was working with full-time diplomats. Why was I there? Because I wanted to be a diplomat. So I wanted to form connections with my colleagues, and I wanted to leave them with a good impression. I wanted to learn the skills of a diplomat, like adaptability and cable writing and policy. And to do that, I worked very closely with my colleagues. I looked up to my supervisors. I asked them questions. I said yes to every opportunity, going to different events, think tanks, meeting with our partners, even at the United Nations, and approaching each day as if it was a brand new learning opportunity that was personally giving me benefit, and also keeping in mind that I wanted to benefit the workplace I was in. So I think it's very important to make sure that you completely apply yourself to your internship, even if maybe at the end of the day you realize this isn't what I want to do, just because you're making an impression that could positively impact your future career, and you're making connections with colleagues who could potentially write you a recommendation or help you find another opportunity or job or internship or scholarship for you. So it's really key to fully apply yourself.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I hope we're getting the point. This is, I wish when I was young, I had this opportunity of listening to Autumn, There's an aspect also which you have emphasized, which I could also relate with, and that's the issue of mentorship. Mentoring is something that is lacking also within our own system. I would like you to address that. Is there a way how would you describe the role of mentorship and networking for you as a student and now as a diplomat? What has that really, have there been any significant influence, from these people? If there is, let us know. Then after one more question, then I will throw it up for everybody. I've seen Bauchi's hand up, but just hold on. If you have any question, please start raising your hand now because I'm going to follow the order. So Autumn, could you discuss the role of mentorship and networking as a student and now as a diplomat?
Absolutely. So as a student, and I was a student as recently as a year ago, my mentors were extremely important to me. I leaned on my career development center, where we had staff that were dedicated to helping us find opportunities like scholarships and internships to prepare us for when we graduated. Now, not everyone has this resource, as mentioned earlier, but you can go to someone like your teacher. One of my professors at school encouraged me to apply for a study abroad scholarship when I was uncertain if I would win it or if I would be able to afford an opportunity like going abroad. And that was life-changing for me in that it opened doors, not only to being able to teach English in Panama, for example, which I did on the Gilman Scholarship, like I mentioned earlier, but also to apply for the Foreign Service where I am now. My mentors at school were my teachers, and I think everyone has a teacher. If you can identify with a faculty member that you respect and who is committed to helping you grow as an individual and professionally, that is an example of someone who could be a mentor. It doesn't have to be school related. It could be anyone in your life, someone that exhibits traits and skills that you would like to embody one day yourself, or someone who simply is willing to work with you on finding opportunities. So my mentors in school helped me find the scholarships that I mentioned, and they also helped me prepare. I recall specifically that the process for entering the Foreign Service was very difficult and challenging, and my mentors at school actually did practice interviews with me. They brought me questions that I would most likely be asked while interviewing for the Foreign Service, and they practiced with me several times a week. Their door was always open. I was extremely blessed and fortunate to have that as a resource. But a mentor is essentially someone that, not only someone that you look up to, but someone who is willing to help you on your path as you develop yourself, who has access to those resources and who is willing to help strengthen you as an individual so that you are qualified for these opportunities and experiences. As a diplomat, it's been a bit different. Mentorship and networking is crucial in the Foreign Service, especially given that we're such an interconnected network globally. And I would say that you're as strong as your colleagues. It's really a team-oriented career. So it's very important to always have positive relationships with your colleagues because you could see them anywhere around the world. I'm in Nigeria now this year and for the next year. And the colleagues that I meet here, I'm sure I will see again in DC or somewhere else in the world. So it's important to have positive relationships with people you work with. That can help you gain jobs in the future, which is why you always want to leave a good impression. Make sure that you have a solid team because you're always you're always stronger as a group than as an individual. I know oftentimes we want to do things by ourselves because we think we can do it the best. But the truth of the matter is that when we are working as a team, usually products are stronger and we become more efficient. So it's important to build those strong networks. Also, when you have a wider network, you have opportunity to have more mentors. I've always believed in the idea of many mentors instead of one, because a mentor at the end of the day is a person with an opinion and much more experienced than you usually, but it's good to have a range of opinions. So if you can have more than one mentor, I would strongly encourage it. I usually ask several different people for their opinions on a subject, and then I weigh those opinions to see what rings true for me, because not one path is the true path for everyone. So I would say that now in the Foreign Service, I almost regard several people as mentors. Usually they're above me and they're at a place in their careers that I would like to be one day. They exhibit skills that I admire, like leadership and communication. And I talk to them. I just ask them, do you have a moment to chat with me? I would recommend you just directly approach them and say, I admire your leadership. Do you have any advice on how I can be a better leader? Or I'm seeking a mentor. You be as straightforward as that. Would you be willing to meet with me once a week? And make sure you take the initiative to follow up with them. If you are seeking a mentor, this is on you to facilitate that. Approach them with some questions, do your research on that person, know where they've worked before, know their background. That way, you're not just kind of falling out of the sky on their lap, but you show them that you deserve to perhaps be their mentee and demonstrate why they should take the time to help you and put effort into it as well. Now, if you're a bit scarce on mentors, a great technique that I learned is to go on LinkedIn. I don't know if you're familiar with LinkedIn. It's a website that many individuals use to find jobs, and it has a messaging feature. So what I would do is I would go on LinkedIn and just scroll around and look at people who worked in international affairs or diplomacy. And I would simply message a person and say, I'm interested in being a diplomat. Do you have any advice? All the time today on LinkedIn, I receive messages from people applying to scholarships like Gilman and Pickering, which I was awarded scholarships for both. And they asked me for advice. I don't know these people, but it's a great networking tool. If you actually really can't think of any mentor you have in your community, then you can go online. Just look for people that inspire you in some way. Perhaps think of what kind of career you'd like and find a person who motivates you, who has a good career path, and you can read up on their story and reach out to them if you can find them online in a safe, open forum. Like LinkedIn is good. It's a professional networking website, so it's kind of built for those networking opportunities. And you can just message them and ask them for advice or ask if they'd be willing to chat with you on a quick call, just to answer some questions about their life experiences. Ask them how they came to be in the position they are in today, kind of like how I'm discussing here. You'll be surprised by how many different paths some people have taken to get to the same place. And it just shows you that, no matter your circumstances or your background, there's always a path forward for you. And by connecting with more people, you get a variety of rich experiences that could inspire you for new ideas on how to become a diplomat or whatever you seek to do.
Thank you very much. I still have so many questions, but let's see how we can get questions from, we're going to, just a minute, we're going to Bauchi. So Bauchi, please unmute yourself. Yes, I've seen your hand up, unmute yourself.
My name is Abubakar Hassan Usman from Bauchi, American Space. As a diplomat, I would like to ask you these very important questions. In your own opinion, what are the key skills and qualities that are essential for a successful diplomat?
Okay. Autumn, you can go ahead. What are the key skills that a diplomat should have?
This is a good question. The key skills absolutely are adaptability. Number one, as a diplomat, you'll be living in many different environments with people you've never encountered before. You'll face different cultures and often intense circumstances at work, and you'll need the grace to perform under pressure. So the ability to adapt is extremely key to working in diplomacy. It's an ever-changing environment. Often we have to move countries every few years, forming completely new communities, friends, family. Sometimes you can't travel with your family. So it's extremely important to have this skill of adaptability so that you can fluidly adapt to your environment and be able to perform and work no matter what the circumstances are. And oftentimes those circumstances can either be challenging or sometimes as far as dangerous. Another key skill I mentioned culture. So being open-minded to other cultures is extremely important. You're a representative of your country, and it's key to build relationships. Of course, that's kind of the the key to diplomacy and the heart of it. It's building relations with other countries and actors abroad. So to be open-minded is extremely key. I found it personally very helpful to me here anytime that I travel, but especially as a diplomat. In Nigeria, I found myself challenged many times, but overall, my open-mindedness has allowed me to fully fit in rather well and also learn a lot of key lessons from not only Nigerians, but also from American officers working in the consulate here. Outside of adaptability and open-mindedness, empathy is key. You are always engaging with others, and it's important to understand the other side. We often carry out policy, of course, and to have empathy and to understand various colleagues, partners, actors inside and outside of your country who might not express the same views will help you push forward your point or to achieve a common goal with someone who you might not see eye to eye with. But if you have empathy, you can find common ground and you can be very successful as a diplomat. So I've mentioned adaptability, open-mindedness, empathy, and I think the final skill that I would say is extremely important is attention to detail. Usually diplomats tend to be type A's, extremely detail-oriented, and your work will be highly scrutinized. So to make sure that you're doing your best service to your country, to yourself, and to your colleagues, attention to detail is key. I would say those are probably the top qualities, although we could go on about this for a while.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. We go right ahead to Maiduguri. Maiduguri, please unmute yourself. Then we come back to Calabar and Benin City. Maiduguri, over to you.
Okay, hello, good day.
Go ahead.
Good day. So, my question is, you spoke of, she spoke of mentorship and all that. So my question is, while growing up, do you like have other friends or colleagues that were also interested in diplomacy, or was she just the only one that was interested in all diplomatic stuff? And if she did have those friends, how did they influence her job?
I didn't get that question very well because.
Okay, my question is, she spoke of mentorship and all that. So, like, while growing up, did she have like other friends or colleagues who were interested in diplomacy as she was? And if she did, like, how did they influence her journey into diplomacy?
Okay, got it now. Autumn?
That's a very good question. As I said, I actually started out with an interest in film. So I didn't come to diplomacy until later in life, or at least until midway through college, I would say. At that time, I don't recall anyone else at my school wanting to be a diplomat. It's not exactly a common career, and I think it can sometimes be overlooked, but it depends on your surroundings. Now, once I became a Pickering Fellow, which was the fellowship that allowed me to enter the Foreign Service, that completely changed. I was suddenly surrounded by individuals who strive to be diplomats and some who have dreamed of this their entire lives or who had recently found out about it. That was a big game changer. Right now, I'm, of course, surrounded by colleagues and friends who greatly value diplomacy. And it's only allowed me to become not only a better diplomat, but also a better person. I think surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals will help strengthen your skills that you want to build. And it also strengthens your network. But like I said, it's not necessary. I would say that studying international affairs in university connected me enough with like-minded people who were interested in international politics and governance. That like-mindedness, perhaps they didn't exactly want to do precisely what I'm doing, which is being a diplomat, but that enough was it was very motivating to be in a community that valued international affairs and had that interest, because we'll bring up different areas of interest that you might not have considered before. So I would almost advocate that while it's important to have someone who's like-minded and also interested in being a diplomat or in your career, temper that with a variety of friends or mentors or colleagues. You know, diversify your network. Don't limit it to specifically the way you see the world or what you're interested in, but temper it with other influences. Perhaps you could just keep it to international affairs. Maybe someone who wants to work in the NGO field or for the United Nations. You still have a different take on the importance of international affairs and different global issues that you might not have considered. And especially as a diplomat, it's so key to have a variety of resources that can help inform your decisions and your understanding of the world, which should always be challenged and growing. And something that can help that is by having a range of influences. So I would say if you can diversify your group by any means, that can be extremely helpful.
All right, so we quickly go to I think we've had Meduguri, now we have Calabar. Unmute yourself.
Hello, my name is Hansi, a student at Godwin International High School. Thank you for everything you said about diplomacy, because I don't really know much about it. My question is, tips on creating a club at my
Sorry, can you repeat yourself? I can't, the screen is frozen. While we're sorting that out, can we move over to Benin City? Benin City, can you unmute yourself?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Please go ahead
Can you
quickly.
hear me, sir? Can you hear me, sir?
Go ahead quickly. We can hear you.
My name is Desmond Odiguma. My question is, she mentioned something about networking as she said. So my question is, in a situation where you're trying to make a network and people give you a dead response, what can you do to make people come in line with you in your networking?
So in essence, how can you force people to be your network?
So I would say, first of all, every closed door is a redirection. So if you're finding that in your community, maybe you're not receiving the response that you'd like, I would say first go inward, become your own resource. So if you have access to the internet, then the world is, I know it's cliche, but the world is your oyster. You can find your own resources, or you can enrich yourself as easily as reading. I would say I'm a strong advocate for reading. You can read books on international affairs or on diplomacy, on the foreign service. That gives you the ins and outs of what this career is like. You can enrich yourself. You can find opportunities such as scholarships or even finding a community elsewhere. So if there's not a mentor in your community now or an opportunity for networking, find a different community. That might not be the right place for you to be searching for that connection or for that kind of mentorship, excuse me. So that's where an internship or a volunteer opportunity really comes in handy. Those are great places to build networks because, you know, we're not always going to be in a place where we're surrounded by individuals who have had the experience of working in international affairs or who have those connections. We have to go to them. So do the research, find out where you could build a network like that, perhaps by starting with a volunteer opportunity, an internship, or a scholarship. Or if you can't start there, I would say start with reading up on international affairs, studying and preparing yourself. I hope that's helpful.
All right. Yes, Calabar, over to you now. I think you're ready. Unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry, we
Go ahead.
had a little power out. Okay.
My name is Kamsi, a student at God's Grace International School. Thank you for everything you said about diplomacy, because I don't really know much about it. My question is activities and also engaging students at my school. What are these tips? That's my question.
What are
What are the tips on creating a club at my school about diplomatic activities and also engaging students at my school?
Okay.
She's trying to look. She told me they're looking at continuity so that they can engage students and learn more about diplomatic activities, as some of them may want to go in line with that. Okay. That's
So I will allow Autumn to talk a little bit about what is diplomacy and how you can be a diplomat, and then I will address how we can continue with this. Over to you, Autumn.
First of all, that's a wonderful idea, I think, to start a club that's dedicating to building skills of diplomacy at your school. An idea that many different students in countries worldwide usually embark on is participating in the United Nations Youth Conference. So you can ask your teachers about that. It's a model UN conference. It's not diplomacy, but it's a great way to get your foot in the field of international affairs. But working with your faculty to do that, and I'll let our American Spaces expert speak more to that. But as far as pursuing diplomacy, as I mentioned, there's no exact path forward, but starting with studying international affairs or political science is a great way to get your foot in the door. That is a professional educational network that will help you study the subjects that are required for a field in diplomacy and to help you connect with professional opportunities to become a diplomat one day. That's how I entered. I studied international affairs at schools, and my networks at school helped me connect to specific entry programs into the Foreign Service. That was really key to me becoming a diplomat.
Okay, I'm also trying to check the chat. I can see Fimba, the essay to the Akwa Ibom government. I'm also an IVP alum. I think your question has been answered. Modupe Adewale from Jos, he said, how can I be a diplomat of Nigeria to the United States? I think that is not for the speaker to talk about. It's the other way around. Then from Mina, he said, I want to ask about what this program is all about. Okay, this program is Speak with a Diplomat. Is a non-policy program organized by the U.S. mission through its American Spaces. American Spaces is a platform designed for people-to-people engagement, education, and empowerment. And we are in 21 cities with 25 American Spaces. And it's free and it's open to anyone in the country. Nimi Adebayo said, what's the name of the fellowship she keeps talking about, please? So Autumn, you said you keep talking about, I think it's Pickering Fellowship. Okay.
That's right.
Are Nigerians qualified for this?
Unfortunately, it's only for Americans. Apologies, but I encourage you to research how the Nigeria Foreign Service employs their diplomats. I'm sure it's a different process.
Good. All right, Hassan, hello leaders around the globe. I'm Hassan from Somalia. So we have somebody listening to you from Somalia. Welcome, Hassan. Nice having you. So we quickly get back to Ikeja now. Is Calabar still interested in asking questions? So let's have Ikeja, then we go back to Calabar and then Benin City. And then we'll wrap it up. Yes, please unmute yourself, Ikeja. Unmute yourself, Ikeja. Unmute. All right.
Yeah, good morning. So how are you doing, madam? How are you doing? So far, with all sincerity, you are a brilliant woman. I must confess to that. So here's my question. How do you handle pressure when faced with older colleagues other diplomats, especially those from other countries with diverse, different background and different views to crucial issue? That's my question.
Thank you.
That's a great question with no easy answer. I think the skills of compromise are extremely important. So I do work in a very interesting environment where I have a variety of different perspectives and colleagues with different experiences in mine who are often older, as you mentioned. So the great thing about the Foreign Service in the United States is we all start at the same exact point. So regardless of whether you've been an architect or a military commander before joining, we all start at the same baseline. It's very equalizing, which is extremely advantageous for me. I always respect those who have different opinions. I've always had very good interactions with all of the different colleagues that I interact with, no matter their background or their age. And I usually look to them as mentors, honestly. I am able to gain skills by interacting with them in a learner mindset. I always approach things with the learner mindset. I am aware that others may have more experience than I do, and I value that, and I see that as a way to build myself. So I would say that if anything, I use it to my strength, because usually I find most people are more willing to share their experiences and advice with me in a way that helps me build my own skills. Also, it's good to know that many of my colleagues, we start at similar beginning points, which helps equalize all of us.
Thank you. Very quickly, we take two of you together. Calabar, unmute yourself quickly, and then Benin City, back to back quickly because we have run out of time. Calabar, Benin City.
I can talk. Good morning, sir, from Benin City, Windows on America. And good morning, Ms. Autumn. I just want to, when you were talking about scholarship, I just want to ask if someone can, since you said we can, apply for like more than 10 scholarships, is it possible for us to have, like, at the end of the day, like more than one scholarship? Is it possible to have
So the
more than one
question is,
scholarship?
if you apply to several, is it possible that you are given more than one or many?
So that entirely depends on the scholarship. So I'm going back to what I said earlier about doing your research on scholarships. Some can be combined, as you mentioned, some can't. But it's such a specific set of requirements per scholarship. It depends on who the organizer is, what the rules are around that specific scholarship. So I would say read the fine print for the scholarship you're applying for, because it really depends. I can't really answer that. But sometimes, yes, you can combine scholarships. But again, it depends on the scholarship itself.
Thank you very much. I can see another comment here from iPhone. How can this awareness be created in our universities? Because sincerely speaking, most of our faculties don't have any idea about these things. So it's very difficult to hinge on any for mentorship. I don't think you need an answer to that. Okay, so one more question before we allow you to go. Have you tasted any Nigerian dish? Have you worn any fabrics since you came to Nigeria?
Yes, I love jollof. I have to say that has to be my favorite Nigerian dish. And I have
Of
worn,
Nigeria. We have Nigerian jollof.
I have to give that to you. And I have worn Ankara fabric. Had
Good.
many clothing pieces made in Nigeria. My wardrobe is very happy here.
Great, great, great. So she has worn Ankara and then had also Nigerian jollof. You know, there's this battle between Nigeria and Ghana. Which of them is the best? I think Nigerian jollof is still the best. Okay, so with that, we want to thank Autumn for coming on this program. Sincerely, I've enjoyed every bit of this session. And like one of our people in Ikeja said, I mean, the way you've presented this session, it has been very brilliant. You know, if somebody is just looking at you from the screen, it's as if you are reading everything. And let me assure everybody, we are here live at the Americans that she's not reading anything from anywhere. She's actually saying this from the heart, and we can feel every bit of it. And thank you very much for sharing from the wealth of your experience. You're young, but you have so much experience that you have given to us today. What was coming to my mind is how can we repurpose this video and get the information that you have given out today to other people through all our social media platforms. So we're going to see what we do with that. So once again, thank you. Can we put our hands together for our guest? If you have enjoyed the session, put your hands together. So thank you. We want to particularly thank all of you. We can see some schools join us, Ikeja. We can see some schools join us from Calabar. We can see some, even our elders from Bochi. Oh, we thank you very much. And then for your question, we appreciate you. We thank you, Kano. We thank you, Sokoto, Maiduguri, Uyo, Calabar, Benin City, Ikeja, Enugu, who else? Jos, Makodi. We have so many. Duse, Mina, thank you everyone for joining. We hope to see you for another session. Monday is a special day. We are looking at editorial cartooning. And I wish some of our students who love drawing can come and see how you can create a career in cartooning, how you can draw cartoon, what are the opportunities there in Nigeria, and how you can make money. I hope you'll be able to do this. Thank you, everyone. And for those who joined from, I can see another person from Madagascar, another person from Somalia. Thank you, everybody, because we also have this link on our Facebook page, so people are joining from all over. So thank you, everyone, and hope to see you at our next session. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.